Hey friends out there in YouTube land, Rob here, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about YoloBox, specifically YoloBox Pro, and give you a pro tip on how you can determine great network settings and custom stream settings when you're on location. There's a couple of things that you can do with that, but YoloBox, before we get into it, is an all-in-one encoder, live stream, field monitor, recorder, and switcher. It does all of that from right here. YoloBox has alleviated my need to use things like OBS on location because YoloBox just fits right on top of your camera. And at the end of the video, I'll share with you a little bit about the tools that I use to help augment the YoloBox experience so that I can broadcast better more often. But the first thing you're going to notice when you get over to your YoloBox, you actually can go into the settings tab and then you have a network test. Now this network test right here is very important because it's going to give you some information about how quickly your network is running where you are. Now as this is going, I'd like to share with you just a couple of tips that I use. When I build into my contracts, I do two things. Number one, I always record internally on the cameras that I'm using, and I always record in my highest quality setting on the internal cameras. Now, I'm using camcorders for the majority of my recordings, and that means that I can record for an unlimited amount of time. Some DSLRs may not have that ability, some mirrorless cameras may not, although that's becoming more and more standard as things go through. But because I can record continuously on my camcorders, it makes it very simple to synchronize that post-production if anything happens to the network. Let's talk about that network again for a second. The network, your stream, is actually only as good as your network will be. When you're streaming, if you're having troubles getting somewhere, getting your information out there, whatever, it may be because the network isn't supporting your upload speed. Now, your network actually has two speeds and it has a connection latency. We're not going to get into too much of that, but basically the latency is how quickly your device can connect to the network and the network can communicate back. A short latency or a long latency will determine how quickly things stream in real time or not. The upload speed is how fast you can send information to the internet. And this is not what most people use. We generally use the download speeds. You, on your device, when you're surfing the web on your computer or on your cell phone, are usually downloading information from the web. And that speed is usually very, very fast. Most of the time, the upload speed is only 10% of the download speed. And that's just a generality. It could be more or less. Here, we're going to find out a couple of things. My download speed using the 3G or the 4G internet on here through my T-Mobile SIM card in my house, in this location, I'm getting about 26 megabits per second. Sometimes people call this megabytes per second. Man, if we were streaming at 26 megabytes per second, it'd be crazy fast. Megabits and megabytes, two completely separate things. However, most people see that and think that it's megabytes anyways. So if you think that it's megabytes, just know that it's megabits. That's fine. We downloaded here at this location at 26 megabits per second, and we uploaded at 3.55 megabits per second. Now this is very important. If you were streaming with a device like OBS or XSplit, you would have the ability to set your upload and download and bandwidth settings. This is very important because we can do this on YoloBox Pro right now. I'm going to show you that in just a second. But what we would need to do is run a network analyzer to find out how fast we can send information to the network, not take from the network. And that means that we need to know how fast our network is going to allow us to download. Now I've tested here in my home plenty of times, and I know that about 3.5 to 4.5 megabits per second is about the fastest that I get right where I am. And I've got some radio interference coming by from airports that are directly beside me and things like that. So my download speed inside my home is actually diminished because of the different, just the different physical things that are around me. When you're out on location, the further away you are from a tower will reduce both your download and upload speeds, and the density of tall buildings and things like that around you could affect your download and upload speeds. When I'm outside, closer to the beach, most of the time I can stream down to the ocean front around 5 to 10 megabits per second, averaging about 7.5 on the upload. Download is roughly with this device around 30 to 50, just depending, averaging about 40. Now, we're going to use this information somewhere important. We come back here. We can back all the way out, and then we can go into a stream. Now, for this instance, I'm actually just going to go ahead and create a stream real quick. I know that you probably can't see this. That's totally fine with me. But I'm creating a stream, and I'm going to title it just something. Okay, and I will go ahead and schedule it. And now we've got our stream created. As I go into here, when I want to select the service that I'm going to use to stream, the first thing I need to do is go to my network settings and the cog icon. Because I know that my upload speed is 3.5 megabits per second. When I come over here and I choose my encode setting, I have some options. Now, YoloBox used to have what's called constant quality, and they still have that. Prior to you and I having the ability to control stream settings on YoloBox Pro, we just had constant quality. And constant quality is YoloLives, the company that makes YoloBox, attempt to make an algorithm that analytically predicts what the network will need in order to give a consistently high quality stream, but also compress bandwidth. Now this works great. It allows you to stream in data compressed areas, specifically out on location where you may not have a very big stream. But since we've got about 3.5 megabits per second, we don't really want to try to send more than about 70% of that stream to the network. Because if there are others in the area, specifically in a funeral where many people might then show up on location at a gravesite that usually has nobody else there except for the beloved departed, they're not using internet. But when 20, 30, 50, or 100 people show up in one area, the cell tower hits a drain, and they're all connected to that cell tower. So if you're streaming by cell towers, you don't want to try to use 100% of your bandwidth for your upload. Now, how do we know what our bandwidth for our upload is? Here, we've got 3,000 kilobits per second. Well, 3,000 kilobits per second is actually 3 megabits per second. Earlier, we saw that we had 3.5 megabits per second, so around 3 kilobits per second, well, 3,000 kilobits per second, or 2,500 kilobits per second is definitely going to be the sweet spot. We can go down to 2,000 kilobits and we can go all the way up to 8,000 kilobits per second. Notice that range actually fits right within the range of most upload speeds for the towers that you will come into contact with. Remember, upload speed is usually about 10% of the download speed. So even on 5G, which this device is not 5G, it's 4G plus, even on 5G, if you were getting 100 megabits per second download, you'd only have about 10 megabits per second upload. So YoloBox also covers that range right there. In this instance, I am actually going to choose 3,000 kilobits per second, and instead of going constant quality in this instance, I'm going to go to constant bit rate, and that's going to allow the bit rate to do its very best to stay ramped up as high as it can, as close to that 3,000 kilobits per second, 3 megabits per second data speed rate. And here's what that's going to do for me. Constant quality will stop sending repeated bits of information to the server when the background is static. So if someone was standing in front of a wall that had no shadow, unlike mine, the wall wouldn't be changing. So the stream could be compressed for the wall signal, and then YoloBox under constant quality would not send that updated wall pixel. This is great, like I said, in data compressed areas, but if we've got a constant bit rate or a constant speed that we're going to use, you can choose to use constant bit rate, which will do its very best to keep the bit rate up to that 3,000 kilobits or whatever you choose setting. Here's the downside. If something happens to the network, like multiple people show up, or lots of people start a demand on that network, or many people attempt to whatever, for the example of a live stream on a funeral, lots more people show up, you may find that the network quality that you're using decreases. Constant quality, the CQ, is the choice which will be best in that situation. But if you know that you've got pretty standard and excellent internet, pretty good throughput and everything, you could choose constant bit rate, or you could choose variable bit rate. Both of these things are going to do a little bit different. Variable bit rate will choose to up and down your bit rate, very similar to constant quality, except it's not going to use the compression algorithms that helps you stream in the more data compressed area. The constant quality is going to change both your stream rate as well as your frame rate. The variable bit rate will just change your frame rate. Finally, you can choose that frame rate down here, down below. Now, what should you choose for your frame rate? On YoloBox Pro in the US, I've got 30 frames per second all the way down to 20 frames per second, depending on what I need. Okay, and there are just steps in there, 24, 25, 29.97, and 30. 29.97 and 30 have more to do with how you're going to record if you're recording on your device or a camera, because YouTube is going to stream in multiples of 25, 50 in Europe, and it's going to stream in 30 and 60 over in the United States. That's what it really wants to do. Although it will take any other iterative frame rate, it will compress, it will change that to the stream rate that it wants to go, the frame rate for your country, your location. In any event, you choose all those things and then you're done. You're said and done. You've got everything ready to go, and you can click rock and roll on YoloBox and stream. Now, you do have one other thing I'd like to share with you while we're there. You can choose to have your video stream mode chose to stream through YouTube's server direct or to the direct platform itself, or you can go through YoloLive's servers. Now, this is nothing new, but if you do choose to use YoloLive servers, your broadcast is first going to YoloLive, and then it's going out from YoloLive over to wherever it needs to go. This allows you to have multiple streams on multiple services at one time without paying a fee. This is a great pro feature. Boxy or Boxcast, things like that cost that extra money. StreamYard costs that extra money. YoloLive gives it to you bundled in right there. I generally choose to stream straight to YouTube when I have the option. It's because I don't do a lot of multi-platform streaming. But on the times that I have, it's been very helpful. Let's talk about the cameras real quick. The important part about what we're using here and today actually has to do with your camcorder, right? It allows me to record multiple hours without any time limit, okay? I've got a 1-inch sensor over here. I've got a 1/2-inch sensor right here. The sensor size when you're setting things up really doesn't matter as much if you're setting things up appropriately, lighting, sourcing, stuff like that, blocking, composition, you're good to go. Both of these work extremely well for on-location documentary shoots, weddings, to include funerals, right? The reason I choose these is because I prefer the XLR microphones that I can plug into them. This has a 24-bit, 4800 kilohertz sample rate data codec, which allows me to record, 2 channels of audio. It's really great. It's provided the ability for me to not bring additional audio recorders on site. And once again, when you can lower what it is you're bringing with you, the fewer things to troubleshoot, the fewer things to go wrong, makes it a lot simpler. YoloBox did that exact same thing as well. Notice that it'd be difficult to put a computer on top of a camera, but it'd be pretty simple to put YoloBox on top of this camera. You know, I mean, we could screw it in right now and you could get a sense for just how big it is on the camera. And this is a smaller camera, but you definitely wouldn't put your laptop on a camera. I mean, am I right? So there you're streaming at this point in time now, be able to stream, choose, select from all your different cameras. In order for me to do that, I do use a wireless transmission system. I use the Vaxis wireless transmission system. And that's right here. These two guys right there connect to one camera. The other camera's connected to the YoloBox. These go into one, those go into the other, and then I've got my 2 sources. YoloBox Pro allows me to use 3 sources, which means once I have clients that want 3 sources, I go ahead and add an aerial imaging device, such as a drone as well. And that means that I can very easily stream 3 devices straight from one using YoloBox Pro. I also have additional field monitors that I might put on a camera in order to make sure that I can see what I want to see. And finally, we were talking audio. I use these XLR, these are the XSWD Sennheiser wireless audio devices. I like them quite a bit, as well as I like the fact that they've got all the different accessories that plug straight in. XLR is a industry standard, and it works on both camcorders, and it gives you a great balanced signal. Nice, easy to edit, sounds good. These, well, that's pretty much my workflow. Of course, I do use some tripods, nice heavy-duty video tripods to put everything together and make a really nice cinematic production, to include overlays and transitions during the stream with video SD card for people that might wish to give well wishes that cannot be at the stream or cannot be at the location of the stream, and that way we can at least play that so that the people at home and the people up front can hear it. And how do we do that? Simple. YoloBox has a program out. You can choose to program out with or without the on-screen overlay. I choose without the on-screen overlay, and that allows me to connect to a projector to play that SD card video at the time. Of course, these things cost money, and the client does choose these ahead of time, so proper planning is what's required in order for it to happen. But the entirety of this whole process is done from this device sitting on top of a camera with a couple of really innovative stream decisions from YoloBox. It makes it just that simple. Guys, I hope that this has been helpful. I'm Ron with RobertHandPhotography.com. Go check me out over there. You can see some stuff in the background. If you have any questions, don't forget to hit me up in the comments down below. You're welcome to email me, rob@roberthandphotography.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the flip side.